The Marching Roundtable's appearance on tour with the Academy was made possible by Fruhoff Uniforms, found at fruhoff.com. Hey, this is Tim. I am here at the Academy. You're on tour in Redlands, California. Here with Lindsey Vento, program coordinator, artistic director. What's your title? What do you call yourself?
Both of those things.
And more.
Yeah.
And more. So thank you for having me here today. I've had such a good time.
Oh my God, we've loved having you.
Your staff is so talented, and they all seem like really excited to be here, like happy to be a part of this family.
I'm glad you noticed that.
No doubt.
It's an extremely bought-in staff. The chemistry is really through the roof. It is, and it's so collaborative. And everybody says that, like, oh, we're so collaborative. But this truly is where it really feels when we're creating and we're talking and we're dialoguing about things. It's really collaborative, and everybody feels valued, and everybody feels like they have worth, and they feel they can. You know, there's a line, there's chain of command, there's all of that, but you can be in an ensemble and somebody can bring up something relative to that. It doesn't matter what your title is. If you have something valuable to say that can contribute, then
you're creating an atmosphere too where they feel like they can.
They can, and that's important though. That's important. And you learn, and staff learns more contributing, even when the answer is, you know, I get that, but here's why that won't work. Right. I can also educate that way too. So we're offering things like that also allows everybody to learn and teach. Even if you don't take that and use it in the program or take that change, you can still dialogue about why that might not work, and then they're learning.
Right, and they have to understand that you have the whole picture in your head, whereas they are working on their piece.
Yes, the micro macro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think the Academy's having a wonderful year. I love the idea of the bridges. So let's talk about the show and sort of what it's about, and so people that are watching can know more about what they're seeing.
Sure. So the bridge between, it's really, bridges are strong. They are pathways to somewhere different. They are pathways back to what you know. They are steel, but they also carry you. There's so many, the bridges are deep.
Where'd you come up with bridges to start with?
I wanted to use Bridge Over Troubled Water.
So that was the starting point.
Yeah.
Because that makes perfect sense. Like you start somewhere.
I wanted to use it.
I want this song in the show.
I wanted to use it. Okay. I wanted to use it. And my husband, who's the arranger, brass arranger, that man can write a ballad. I mean, he will bring a tear to your eye. And I know that. And so I thought I want to choose something that he can really, that I know that he's going to knock it out of the park. And I'd always wanted to do that. So Bridge Over Troubled Water has always been in my mind. But after, last season and talking with the board, and they were so supportive and thought, I see your vision. We all see your vision. What is it that you need? What can we do to take this where you want the Academy to go? And I said, well, it's not a 1-year plan. This is a long life. This is a 5-year plan.
Of course. You
don't just come in, and yes, they made finals, in 16, but they're not a perennial. And so it's a constant plan. It's a constant 3-year plan. It's a 5-year plan. And so they said, what do you need? What can we offer? What do we need to do? Do we need to stay out? Do we need to go in? And the dialogue was so great. And I said, I want to take everything the Academy has done and what they've known for and their strength, and they're just strong program in general, and what Mark Richardson has done as a whole, just dynamically with the human beings here. Mm-hmm. And I want to take them, I want to try some new things with them, and I want to bridge where the Academy is and why I signed on and where I want them to go. And so that bridge right there I said, oh my goodness, this is it. That's what we're going to base it on.
I just said the word bridge.
I just said the word bridge.
Okay, and so that takes us to bridges. That makes sense.
It does. And so, part 1 is really the progress. It's really progress. It's building them. We're going to show you how we build them. You're going to hear very angular and very intense and just metals and clanging. And
the idea of bridges being built. And those strong structures.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then part 2 with our Bridge Over Troubled Water is about the connection. And it's about connecting to each other. And so you'll see that a lot. We'll see human bodies connecting to each other. It's about connecting to the audience. It's about bridges connecting you from one place to the next, but also you can go back to where you came from. When you cross a bridge, like a big gate doesn't come down, you can't go back. You can go back. So
that's true.
You can try new things, but you can always revert back to where you came from. It doesn't have to be completely abandoned. And so
interesting.
Yeah. And so Stability is our last production with the closer, just stable and strong and triumphant. And
So where did the bridge props come into it? Did you decide, I think we had a discussion earlier where you mentioned that sort of was one of the first things you thought of.
It was. I mean...
Which makes sense. You're saying we're going to do a bridge show. Let's have bridges.
And just from a visual and verticality standpoint, it's a layer. It adds layers. And you can go up and down them, and you use them in different ways. You know, we hang on them, we stand on them, we play on them, we run over them, we dance on them, we move them into probably 6 different configurations and angles. And so that just creates the visual land that allows me to change the visual landscape as many times as I want while creating vertical and horizontal layers at the same time. And it's bridges. You can't do a show without bridges.
No. I mean, I love it.
I know that sounds remedial, but
but this is, I think, the reason I like to do these kinds of discussions is because there are people out there putting shows together, and it's good for them to understand your process. So we're doing a show about bridges. But what I love is that I think your show is a good example of you have this really interesting series of props, but then you use them in all kinds of cool ways, including ones I don't expect. And that's always, to me, the sign of how you're supposed to use a prop is like, all right, I expect them to go up and over them. I expect them maybe to stand on them. But then a lot of the ways you use them or the way you configure them on the field, it's all really interesting. So that had to be fun to go through that process with the design team and figure that out.
It was. And I'm always, it's no secret. Anybody who's seen anything I've done, or whether it's drum corps or high school band or whatever, I love a prop. This is not a secret. I like it. I like what it allows me to do creatively. And they're really strong anchors. And I love that. So Jamie Hawley, our drill designer, who's just brilliant and a dear friend, we've done trillions of projects together at this point. We do the prop drill first, and I think that's what people miss sometimes. High school bands especially. So not drum corps, because if you're designing for a drum corps, like you got it together and you know the deal. But high school bands forget, if you're going to move props in the show, you have to design the prop drill and the motion first. And it's got to be like all 5 times you're going to move them. You got to know what that's going to look like. How many counts is it going to take the furthest prop to get to here? You can't just think, we're going to get him to a diagonal. If you don't know that's going to work, you've just designed an entire program on the musical score with this in mind. Then you get him out there and you go, oh God, this isn't going to work. We have to add counts. Well, now you're starting to get a pacing problem happening. Now you're just inserting unnecessary measures because you didn't plan.
Something takes a long time to move.
Because you didn't plan that it was going to move.
When you said you designed the prop drill first, that's not before the music's written, is it? Or is it?
No. The music is in conjunction, I guess.
I was going to say, it might happen all kind of at the same time.
It is. It's the same time. I mean, we had some, we went through a lot of pictures that we liked, and we threw a whole bunch of Pyware files out there, and we said, we like this one, this one, this one, this one. And then it was, I really would have liked this one, but I can't because we can't get there in a timely fashion. It's going to not, we're just going to watch people move furniture.
Right, that takes too long. Okay, but this is really helpful, because if you're thinking of the visual program, to think about all the way you're going to use those props and then plan around that. Everything else is built from that.
Well, they're the things that are the most, you can move the bodies around. You write the drill, so you change the human beings, and you use the props to create pockets for yourself, especially with high school teams when you're trying to create that staging musically, and you've got a woodwind feature, you've got a brass feature. Well, you can think about, I'm going to take these props and circle them here, arc them here, because my woodwind feature will look so coordinated in this little zone. You have to pre-think about those things. You can't write all the drill and think where all the props going to go.
Right,
that's a lot of roadmap that you...
Right.
It's like going on a road trip without a map.
But I think that some people don't think about this level of coordination.
Sure.
Like this amount of planning. And it makes perfect sense. If you're going to have these giant props, there's so many of them, and you want to have 5 or 6 different looks.
Right.
You would have to plan that out.
You have to.
From the beginning. And then everything's going to be influenced by that.
And there are some things that you don't, and the other scary part is, like, now that we've designed that, you're gridlocked too. Now think about it that way. You're like, I've already gridlocked myself in, but even with the Academy, there's, a couple of the ending sets that we tweaked as we went. We said, we have space to do this. This would be a lot more interesting. Why don't we spin them this way?
So there is some flexibility.
There is some flexibility, but you have to remember it's a domino effect. If you're going to go to prop set number 2 and you change it because you don't like what it looks like, then you better do the math of how it's going to go to prop set 3. Right. If not, you've got a domino effect for the next 10, 11 minutes.
Well, and I know as a drill designer that every time there's an obstacle in the field, there's this prop somewhere, I have to really move around it and react to it. It's a huge, huge thing to deal with.
It is. And I can't imagine a drill designer out there. I mean, thankfully, none that I work with, they're great. But I can't imagine if a band director or a designer or somebody went to the drill writer and said, can we do the prop drill first just so we know it works? He's going to go, nah. Yeah. Of course he wants to know if it works.
Right, of course.
Who doesn't want to know that it works, right?
Right, but I still think that's a level of coordination that sometimes people don't think about.
They don't. I think they should.
Or they have props and they don't use them interestingly, or the environment, like changing the environment.
Or they try to use them too interestingly. Is that a word?
Yeah, because as you mentioned a minute ago, we've all seen shows where all I'm watching is people move
all you're
stuff
doing.
Around.
Sometimes you can overthink it as well. You just change your visual, just change the landscape a few times, and create new pockets and new zones and then design within the zone, instead of, especially smaller teams. The 100 yards is available to you. It doesn't mean you have to use it. So use those props to create zones for yourself. We just got into a high school marching band educational discussion for some reason.
No, but that's what this whole thing's about. Like, these people that are watching this are probably designers or band directors or whatever, and this is exactly the kind of thing I wanted to talk about. Is this not what you thought?
Well, I'm glad.
I mean, we did sort of. This is what I think is interesting. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, absolutely. I'll talk about it.
So, what are the 3 sections of the show? The building, progress,
connection, stability.
That's
what bridges are.
And the drill and the music and everything coordinates those ideas. Yes. I did see you working on some stuff for the ballad today, and I did see the connection. The two people are connecting. They're leaning on each other. They're because I had a wonderful discussion with Darian about how he teaches them to do that. Yes. Make sure you see that. Yep. With Darian Lohman, so smart.
Well, it is. And the connection piece is so. It's just a vulnerability in a good way. It just. When you can see two humans connecting physically in some way, it just is it invites you in. It just breaks down that wall, and there's no barriers, right? Drum corps and marching band or whatever, we're so structured so many times. And that connection and that release and that sharing of weight, it just breaks down a wall for the watcher and it invites you in. And I think connection is a really beautiful thing, especially physically. So
yeah, and I think we need more connections in our world right now.
Oh, amen.
So I love that you're talking about that. And then what was the last part?
Stability. I mean, it's so compelling that you...
I've had a long day of interviews. People that, no, stability. Because bridges are strong and stable. They don't move.
So is the freaking academy. I'm serious.
No, really?
They are. Okay. Mark Rich, it's a newer core. It's a newer 19 years, but it is. I mean, compare it.
Yeah, it's one of the newer ones. Yeah,
it is, but it is strong. Mark Richardson has done such a tremendous job, and what he allows and doesn't allow, and just the compliance of all things, and the hires, and how he allows us to, and how he allows me to choose the staff, and there's a trust factor there. It's just the academy is always going to be strong because he builds that foundation for it to be so. It is a welcome place. It is a family place. It is a place that I let my son march. It is a place that I want them to be, and that is very strong, and I think the academy is strong in that way. Are they going to be a finalist every single year? I don't know. Do any of us ever know? Or when's the next time we're going to be a finalist? Is it this summer? Maybe. Is it not? I don't know. But what I do know is the academy is strong, and they're going to be strong for years to come because the foundation is so solid.
Like a bridge. Yeah,
strong like bridge.
And I got to tell you that the way drum corps is going right now, there's such depth. There are so many, like students that are marching in a 17th, 18th place corps are getting a top 12 experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're getting it's so like I mean I wish there could be 15, 20 finalists because there's so many. I mean, so don't we all? But that was voted down.
Everybody was. That would create G bugles. Bring them back.
No, wait a minute. Are you calling me a fossil?
No, I'm calling so many on this. If we said that, they would be like, wait a minute.
I miss the G bugles sometimes. I know, but we're not going to go there. You mentioned your son.
Yes.
I had this discussion with Matt Harloff. His son is marching
Tyson.
Crown.
I love
Tyson.
Tyson.
So excited.
Yeah.
It means so much to him. So what does it mean to you to have your son marching in the corps you're working with?
There are not really adequate words to describe it's difficult to describe because it is an honor. You almost, it's like a rite of passage. It's like you've done this. You know, I did this career well before he was born. You know, he's 18. We'll be 18 next month. And I started this before he was even born. And so it's so crazy to think about this career that I built and built and built, that I've done it long enough and things have happened enough that now that little boy that was born years after I'd started is now here with me. And it is it's a heavy thing in such a positive way. He could have chosen to march anywhere, and I think he would have made it a lot of places. Now, I'm not trying to toot his horn and my own kid's horn. He's pretty talented.
Really good guard
and
kid.
He's a hard worker. He's a hard worker. And he could have picked anywhere. And he picked our team. And I've never been able to teach my kid. He's in his dad's band, Ken Hansen at Blue Springs South. And it's perfect. Our family dynamic of band and life and all things music and pageantry is an awesome place. Our kids have it made, in my opinion. But, you know, he's been in his dad's band this whole time, which I've loved because I've been able to just be the mom on the sideline with the button and the whole thing. And just this summer at our April camp, and I was teaching the course something, and the guard was involved. It was my first time ever teaching my son ever.
Oh,
he's come to every rehearsal with me since he was little. He had the little flags. He did all the things. But then he'd always been in a district that wasn't mine, that I didn't teach. And so I'd always been on the sideline. And I finally, first time I stood there, I went, oh my God, I'm teaching my kid.
So what was that moment like?
I cried. I absolutely cried.
How could you not?
I absolutely cried. I mean, at one point I was looking out there and I had to make some corrections, and I got to say Jack to just move him forward. And I was like, that was my... This is the first time. Yeah. It's the first time I got to teach my kid and actually say his name, and he was on my team, and it was very cool. It means a lot. It's a family affair. And I love that my whole family, you know, my husband and Kenny and myself, I love that we've shown our family that pageantry, and we've shown our kids that pageantry arts and the marching arts is a positive place to be. You know, it's very stressful. So we could have shown them and come home and complained after every rehearsal I hate my job and it's so all these things, and they would have not wanted to do it. But they can't wait. Like our two younger ones, they can't wait to get in it. And so we've shown them the positive side of what this can be, and they want to be in it. And that's parenting win, I think.
I would say so.
I hope.
I also think there's something sort of cool about the symmetry of him growing and developing as a young man, and then reaching this point where and then you, in your career, have grown and developed to the point that you're now in this important position in the same moment in time. Like, there's an interesting parallel there.
And I asked Jack after his first show, you know, I wasn't with him, which was hard because I just got here a few days ago. And so I missed his first performance, and it wasn't, you know, broadcast or anything. And so I asked him how it felt. And he said, you know, it was so surreal because they got off the field or whatever, and they were getting ready to load, and he stood at the fence, and he was watching other drum corps, you know, on the field, and he was standing there in his costume, and he said it was surreal because he'd spent his whole life, we've taken him to drum corps shows since he was in a stroller, still sleeping through it. And so he said it was really surreal moment that he was standing in a costume, and he had just performed with people that he had been cheering for since he was a little baby. And he said that was mind-blowing. And I was like, then of course I cried again. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a very emotional summer.
It's okay.
But he did.
Fine.
He said, I've watched these teams and I've listened to announcers. That's what he said, announce these teams since I was a baby. And now I'm competing with these same things. And it was really, for him, a really big moment for him in his life. So...
Well, and I can even say, looking back, I remember when I first put on my regiment uniform the first year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here, I'm part of this. There's Madison Scouts over there. You know, like, you're like... And
you're competing with them.
Here I am.
Yes.
And it is amazing that when you finally, like, you arrive there, and it's big.
It is. Oh, it's big. This is, I mean, and especially if you're in this activity, you've got, you know, your emotional quality, and you're in touch with artistry, and that depth of emotion is different in a pageantry arts person. You come with that sensitivity, that really beautiful sensitivity that you feel all of those things. So all of those things really, really deeply matter to us. Yeah.
I just can't help but think that I like having these kinds of conversations because I want people that might be watching to remember like, this is what we're doing this for. Like, we want to create these shows. We want to give life experiences. We want to create art. We want to move audiences. So when they grouse about something they don't like or whatever, I always want them to stop and think, wait a minute, people, what is this really all about? These people that are putting these shows together, what is their real point? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that one thing you don't like, that flag design or whatever, like, it's not really what really I wish people would focus on.
It's
it's not the bottom line.
It's not. It's absolutely not. And I think, I think people forget often.
That's my point. They forget.
They forget often that designers, that's their blood, sweat, and tears. And that's, where you might like Jackson Pollock, somebody else
I might be a Van Gogh guy.
Van Gogh, and how different is that? Hello. Right?
But they're both wonderful.
But they're both wonderful. So because Jackson Pollock might have designed something that you really didn't know what it meant because he numbered them instead and you didn't get the meaning behind it, doesn't mean you can't. That wasn't his blood, sweat, and tears and his stress level and his offerings to society. What we're doing is we're offering things to young adults for them to grow through and for them to perform and to offer competitively. And we're offering that to people. And so whether you may not like this and you might not like this choice and this might be too dark and we're not wearing a shako and, and this costume is this and this uniform is that and this music arrangement. I mean, all of those things, they're not wrong. They're not wrong and they're allowed to have their opinions. You just sometimes got to remember, if you wouldn't walk up to somebody and say it to their face, please don't sit behind your computer on social media. And all of a sudden you've got this social media strength, as I call it, and you say all of these things. If you wouldn't walk up to me as a designer and say, I really don't like how you XYZ. I really don't like the things you've done the last few years. If you wouldn't walk up to me and say that, you've got to think of it that way. And if you would, good for you. You're strong and that's great. But I think there's 90% of the people out there who just go behind their screen and they tear down, and those members read that. Members are reading that.
They do.
And if you wouldn't walk up to a member and say, I really don't like what your designer put you in tonight, if you wouldn't do that to them, just please save it. Please just spare it.
Yeah, I think people just lose the big picture.
They lose the big
context.
Picture.
And the other thing that I want to love, and I want to ask you about this too, because my main point I always want to make is, I think anybody that's creating anything and putting it out in front of the audience to judge,
and we're putting ourselves out there.
Like, you're taking a big risk.
You are.
And I think you're being very bold. And I wish people would remember that. Like, if you haven't designed a drum corps uniform and put it out there for everybody to judge, then maybe you need to stop and think, okay, let me at least honor the fact that they're taking the risk and they're doing. Do you feel that?
I do. I do. And again, everyone's allowed. It's a free country, right? We can't fight for free speech and freedom of all the things and then tell people and then silence people and censor them, right? So I want to make sure I say that. I want everyone to have the voice. But what I want people to do is realize the risks that are involved and how we're exposing ourselves as designers, and
give a little credence to that.
It is. And just and know that wasn't just, we weren't flippant about that. We just didn't come down and just start sketching things together, A
lot of thought and time and sweat and care.
It is.
And I just want people to be a little more kind and considerate to each other when they're having discussions. Like you said.
I've talked about this before. We're in the pageantry arts, right? We're in a place where you are welcomed. Your choices, your sexual preferences, your gender, your whatever you choose. Whoever you are is welcome in the pageantry arts. Have we not voiced that and yelled that from the mountaintops for years? This is the most welcoming place. Then, in the most welcoming place that should be, right, that we've created ourselves, we are the most accepting body of humans, right? This artistic group that we are. Yeah. But then the next thing we do on the next page down is we tear down those same people. So are we, we forget.
You can't really have it both ways.
You can't. Are we going to welcome each other and accept each other for what it is? Or are we going to go on the next scroll down and, and tear everybody down and tear each other down? And I just want us to, I want us to remember that. You can have your opinions. It's just there's a way in which to have them.
Right.
And you can't forget that this is someone's blood, sweat, tears, and we've exposed ourselves. I mean, we're just opening ourselves.
Absolutely.
And
I've learned where I sort of say, like, I wish they hadn't made that choice, or, You know, maybe I would have preferred something else. But still, like, they made a choice. They put it on the line. They put it out there.
But even you saying that, I can respect that. I can respect you saying, oh, I wish they would have made a different choice. But, you know, this is, you know, whatever they feel is best.
But I did learn to say that. Because there was a day when I would be like, oh, man, do I hate that uniform. But now I'm sort of like, okay, I understand all the time and sweat and blood and tears that went into that. And is it my favorite choice? I don't know. But they made a choice. And they put a show on the field.
When we're all sitting around with our friends, right? We're all drinking a beer, Pepsi, whatever we do. And we're sitting around at the establishment or home. And you're talking to your friends about, oh, did you see XYZ? We're all going to be honest, right? You can dialogue with your safest, most confidant people.
But that's different than screaming it online.
It's different than screaming it on social media and publicly shaming and tearing down someone's decisions and choices. And then the members who have no say in any of this have to read that.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, you and I would have a conversation off the screen. We can talk about things. We know that that's between us, and we can honestly share. But I would never get on a megaphone and go in front of people and say, this is what I think. Like, it's just not appropriate. I'm always asking people to be more kind, be more considerate.
And it's always the squeaky wheel that is the loudest. So what I always try to offer and remind people, and remind myself, because there are plenty of things about me out there, right? The squeaky wheel's the loudest. There are, of the 2% that are tearing everybody down, there's 90% of people out there applauding just as loud. And so you can't forget it.
Right, absolutely.
You can't forget
And most people are great. And most people are clapping. And so many great shows. Well, listen, I think what's going on at the Academy is very exciting.
Thanks, Tim.
I do think you've got the people I've met today who are on the team they're young, they're exciting, they're really care.
They do.
And you've got a chemistry going amongst the staff. The fact that you have Darian here teaching movement, like he's at the very highest level of the movement and dance activity. That's really special.
It is.
I think great things are happening.
It is. Yeah. And
thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Oh, this was a blast.
I've had great time. And thanks to Fruha for bringing me here, for sponsoring my trip, and thanks for talking about the show. I can't wait to see how the season goes. No matter where the placings are, whatever. This is going to be a great year for the Corps.
Oh, 100%. Everyone's
moving in a direction that's very exciting.
We are. Thank you for noticing.
Thank you. No, it's very exciting, and you're doing great work.
Thank you.
All right.
Come back soon.
Find other interviews and videos from top DCI designers, instructors, and marchers, behind-the-scenes videos, interviews, and podcasts from winter camps, spring training, traveling during the season, and performances, all at marchingartseducation.com/DCI-2019. The Marching Roundtable is proud to be an official media partner of Drum Corps International.